They don't warn you about the moment your world shifts. There is no announcement, no siren, no warning light. It happens in silence. A phone call, a betrayal, a door that closes and never opens again. Suddenly, the ground beneath you crumbles. The life you knew vanishes like breath on a cold mirror. And what are you left with? Panic, rage, confusion. But the Stoics, the wise ones, they taught something else. They taught silence in the storm. They taught that you cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to stand still. When life falls apart, your mind is your last line of defense. Not your job, not your status, not the opinions of those who never lived your life. Only your thoughts, clear, sharpened like a blade forged in fire, will determine whether you break or rise. Marcus Aurelius, writing by candlelight as the Roman Empire trembled around him, didn't seek comfort in escape. He wrote to remind himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't write for applause. He wrote to survive, to conquer himself in a world that never stops testing you. So ask yourself, when the storm comes, do you run for shelter, or do you become the calm? Because the storm will come. Loss will knock on your door. Rejection will call you by name. Illness, failure, fear. They are not anomalies. They are invitations to meet yourself in the fire and not flinch. The Stoics never said life was easy. They never said, be positive. They said, prepare. Train your mind like a warrior trains his blade. Discipline your thoughts. Fortify your soul. Because when life collapses, the world doesn't wait for your emotions to catch up. You either take control of your response, or the chaos will consume you. You don't get to choose what happens to you, but you always choose how to interpret it. That is where your power lives. Imagine this. Everything you've built is gone in a single moment. You're on your knees. The world is cold, indifferent, merciless. And yet, you breathe. You stand. You move forward. That is not delusion. That is inner strength. That is stoicism. It is not emotionless. It is emotional mastery. To feel everything and still act with clarity. Epictetus was born a slave. He had no control over his body, his freedom, his fate. But he had control over his mind. And that made him freer than kings. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He didn't just say it, he lived it. And you must too. Because the world will try to pull you out of yourself. Into panic, into resentment, into despair. It will bait you into reacting. But reaction is weakness. Stillness is strength. The moment you pause, breathe, see clearly, you take back your power. You remember, the opinions of others are noise. The past is gone. The future is unknown. But this moment, this breath is yours. Fully yours. Now listen. Calm is not passivity. It is not laziness. Calm is the weapon of those who lead. When all others lose their head, you keep yours. When they scream, you speak with precision. When they chase revenge, you choose reason. When they seek comfort, you embrace discipline. This is how leaders are made. This is how legends are carved. You don't need the world to agree with you. You don't need everything to be perfect. You need courage. You need philosophy in action. You need to live your values, especially when it hurts. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The mind creates monsters where none exist. But the trained mind sees clearly and chooses not to suffer twice. So ask yourself, are you feeding the fire with fear, or are you facing it with wisdom? Because every challenge is a mirror. It reflects back who you really are. Not the version you post online. Not the one people clap for. The raw, unfiltered self. When no one's watching. When the applause fades. When you're alone. That's where stoicism begins. In that silence. In that stillness. In the chaos between heartbeats. You learn to choose your response. You learn to hold the line. You learn to stay calm. Not because the world is kind, but because your soul is unshakable. And that, my friend, is the highest victory. Not wealth, not fame, but peace earned through fire. And fire will come. It always does. So when it does, you do not crumble. You do not curse the sky. You rise. You respond. You endure. Like stone. Like steel. Like a mind trained in the art of stillness. You were not born fragile. You were born to withstand. To be tempered by pain like iron in the forge. Heated, hammered, shaped into something unbreakable. Every trial you face is not a punishment. It's a process. It's the sculptor's hand chiseling away the unnecessary. It's nature saying, "This is who you truly are." Watch what emerges when all comfort is stripped away. Comfort softens you. Crisis defines you. We want peace. We want control. But life offers neither. Not on its own. You must seize peace. You must create order not around you but within you. The Stoics never waited for life to calm down. They trained in advance. They rehearsed loss, imagined hardship, practiced detachment. This wasn't pessimism. It was preparation. Because when you prepare your mind for the worst, you are never unarmed when it arrives. You walk into the storm already knowing who you are, already having decided how you will respond. There is no panic. No begging for mercy from a world that does not hear cries. Only breath. Only purpose. Only the steady rhythm of resolve that says, "I will not break." Understand this. The world owes you nothing. Not fairness. Not comfort. Not even time. And yet you owe the world everything. Your clarity. Your conduct. Your contribution. When life rips away your illusions, you must thank it. Yes, thank it. Because only when you lose what doesn't matter, do you begin to see what does. Let go of the illusion that peace lies in what you own. Let go of the illusion that validation will save you. Let go of the idea that your worth depends on anything external. You are not your job. You are not your status. You are not your failures or your trophies. You are how you think. You are how you respond when no one is watching. That is the essence of inner peace. To remain unmoved when the world shakes. Not because you're numb, but because you've built something deeper than emotion. A code. Compass. A clarity that cannot be bought or borrowed. And this clarity, it begins in pain. When you're on the floor. When you're out of options. When nothing makes sense. And yet you keep breathing. You keep moving. You keep choosing virtue over bitterness. That's where strength is forged. The Stoics didn't fear hardship. They welcomed it as the only path to mastery. Because how can you know you are strong? If you've never had to stand through the storm, how can you speak of peace? If you've never fought for it within yourself, how can you claim clarity? If you've never faced confusion and stayed true, calm doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you no longer serve your feelings as if they were kings. Your emotions are not your master. They are messengers. They are signals. But they are not orders. You are not your anxiety. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are the one who observes them. You are the one who chooses the response. And when you realize that, truly realize it, the entire game changes. Because then you're no longer reacting to life. You're responding with purpose. Like the archer who doesn't control the wind, but still controls his aim. Like the captain who cannot calm the sea, but still steers his ship with steady hands. That is the path. Not to avoid the storm, but to become so rooted, so grounded, that no storm can move you. Every day you will face tests, some small, some life-changing, and each one asks you the same question. Will you remain aligned with your principles? Or will you abandon them? The world will push you, mock you, tempt you to trade your peace for petty victories, to lash out, to complain, to fold under pressure. But you were not made for that. You were made for deeper things, higher things, for the fire that purifies, for the silence that sharpens, for the strength that does not shout but simply endures. Remember this, every crisis is a classroom. Every moment of despair is a lesson. Not in punishment but in power. You do not rise because life is easy. You rise because your soul refuses to kneel before fear, because you carry the wisdom of those who came before. Marcus, Pictetus, Seneca, men who lived through war, slavery, exile, and found peace anyway. And if they could find it, so can you. Not in some perfect life, but in this one, right now, exactly as it is. The pain you carry, let it be fuel. The loss you grieve, let it be light. The fear that visits, let it be your teacher. There is no shame in breaking down, only in refusing to get back up. There is no shame in feeling lost, only in choosing not to seek. There is no shame in silence, only in forgetting what speaks inside of it. So fall, and rise, and fall again, and rise again, each time calmer, wiser, more still, until one day, the chaos no longer controls you, the storm no longer shakes you, and peace is not a place you visit, it's who you've become. There is a silence so profound, it drowns out all fear, not the silence of defeat, but the silence of mastery. It's the silence of a man or woman who has walked through fire, lost everything they thought they needed, and discovered they were whole without it. That silence is where power lives. You see, the world wants you reactive, outraged, distracted. It wants you chasing status, panicking over opinions, consumed by what others think. But the Stoic walks a different path. Not because the world is quiet, but because they've trained their soul to be louder. You don't rise above chaos by yelling over it. You rise by no longer needing to be heard. And that is the paradox of real peace. It is not loud. It is not flashy. It does not scream for attention. It is unshakable presence in a world addicted to noise. When your calm becomes contagious, you've become a lighthouse in the storm. People will ask how you stay grounded while everything burns. And you won't explain. You'll show them, through the discipline of your thoughts, through the patience of your words, through the unwavering clarity of your actions. You'll show them that self-control is not a trait. It is a practice. And peace is not luck. It is forged, daily, in discomfort, in reflection, in repetition. This is why the Stoics journaled, why they meditated on death, why they practiced misfortune. Because they knew, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back on your training. And if your training is weak, your peace will collapse. So train. Train every single day to separate what you control from what you don't. Train to question your first impulse. Train to pause before you speak. To breathe before you act. To ask, is this who I want to be? Is this in alignment with the values I've chosen? Not the values handed to me. Not the ones trending, but the ones forged through sweat and solitude. This is what Stoicism demands. Radical responsibility. To stop blaming, to stop waiting, to stop hoping for easier days, and instead, to become stronger for the days you have. Because the world is not going to slow down for you. It will not soften because you're tired. It will not pause because you're overwhelmed. So you must decide. Will you chase comfort, or will you chase character? Will you react, or will you respond? Will you crumble, or will you become the calm you crave? Look around. Everyone is searching for peace. In relationships, in money, in distractions that promise a break from the pressure. But peace cannot be purchased. It cannot be downloaded, borrowed, inherited, or faked. Peace is earned. And it is earned by how you handle the fire. Do you breathe or break? Do you anchor or drift? You cannot fake stoicism. It reveals itself only under pressure. It's in the way you hold eye contact when the world looks away. In the way you keep your voice steady when chaos erupts. In the way you choose dignity when anger would be easier. In the way you protect your mind like a temple, refusing to let noise desecrate it. And you protect that peace not once, but every single moment. Because no one is coming to do it for you. No one is coming to save you from your own mind. No one is coming to stop the storm, but you are already enough to rise through it. Not because you have the answers, but because you're willing to walk into the unknown, with discipline as your armor, and wisdom as your weapon. The calm you're looking for isn't out there. It's within. It's in the quiet choice to stay aligned when everything tempts you to abandon yourself. You want inner peace? Let go of trying to control the uncontrollable. Let go of needing everyone to understand you. Let go of the past. Let go of the illusion that more will make you whole. And return, again and again, to the breath, to the now, to the truth, that nothing is guaranteed, that everything is temporary, and that you are still free, utterly free, to choose your response. That is Stoicism. That is calm. That is where your power begins. And once you understand that, you become unstoppable. You want to know what real strength looks like. It's not in a clenched fist. It's not in a raised voice. It's in the man who walks away instead of striking. It's in the woman who smiles through disappointment, not because she doesn't feel, but because she has learned to rise above. Strength is self-control, and self-control is the foundation of peace. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't wait for life to stop hurting. They met pain with purpose. They believed that your life is shaped not by what happens, but by the judgments you place on what happens. And when those judgments become wise, calm follows. So when life shatters, and it will, when everything feels uncertain, unfair, overwhelming, you don't collapse. You return to principle, to reason, to what you know is eternal. You remind yourself, nothing that can be taken from me defines me. No event, no loss, no betrayal has the power to rob me of my integrity. Because only you can hand over your peace. Not the chaos, not the failure, not the critic who misunderstands your silence. You. And that's what makes Stoicism terrifying for some, because it strips away every excuse. You are responsible for your peace. You are responsible for how you interpret the storm. You are the gatekeeper, and you decide what enters your soul. That's why Marcus Aurelius wrote every day. He wasn't preaching. He was reminding himself, again and again, that the throne means nothing if the mind is a prisoner. That power means nothing if anger controls it. That wealth means nothing if gratitude is absent. That reputation means nothing if peace is lost. So strip it all away. The image, the noise, the narrative you tell others. And ask, when it's just me and my thoughts, am I free? Because if your mind is chaotic, it doesn't matter how perfect your life looks. And if your mind is still, no storm can destroy you. You see, we've been taught that control means domination. But the Stoics teach us that control begins within. Before you try to change the world, master yourself. Before you seek to influence others, govern your own impulses. Before you demand justice, live with virtue, because the calmest one in the room is usually the most powerful. Why? Because they're not pulled by emotion. They're guided by principle. They are not desperate to win arguments. They are devoted to winning themselves. This is how peace is built. Brick by brick, thought by thought, moment by moment, in how you carry yourself when the pressure is suffocating. Can you still speak with clarity? Can you still choose restraint? Can you still honor your code, even when no one claps for it? That's the Stoics' path. Quiet, relentless, free. And this freedom doesn't come from escape. It comes from facing everything you fear, and choosing not to be ruled by it. So the next time life hits you, hard, fast, without apology, remember this: your reaction is your responsibility. Your peace is your practice. And your power lies in how you rise. Not with noise, not with rage, not with shallow bravado, but with calm, with courage, with unshakable presence. Because when you become the calm in the chaos, you don't just survive. You lead, you lift, you become a beacon for those still lost in the storm. And that is your calling. To be unshaken not because you're unfeeling, but because you've learned to feel deeply and still choose strength. To be calm not because you're lucky, but because you've trained your mind like a sword, to live not in fear of what may fall apart, but with full faith in what will always remain. Your character, your courage, your control. And when you finally understand that, when you no longer chase calm outside of yourself, when you carry it within you, everywhere you go, you will become something no crisis can ever touch. Untouchable not because of walls, but because of wisdom. Still, not because the world is quiet, but because you are. Stillness is not absence. It is not emptiness. It is the highest form of presence. It is the state of someone who has made peace with uncertainty. Not because they've figured it all out, but because they've stopped needing to. It is the presence of the soldier who stands, even when outnumbered. The presence of the mother who holds steady in the face of pain. The presence of the builder who lays one brick at a time while others panic over the storm. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need the discipline to return again and again to your center, to that quiet place inside you, where truth is simple, where breath is enough, where presence becomes power. Because this is what they don't teach you. Calm is not a gift. It is a discipline. It's not something you stumble into when life is kind. It's something you forge when life is brutal. It is the decision, moment by moment, to choose awareness over assumption, to choose stillness over reaction, to choose clarity over comfort. Every single day you are tested, not by big events, but by 1,000 small moments. A rude comment, a delay in traffic, a bill you didn't expect, a dream that takes longer than it should. And each of these moments is an invitation. Will you get pulled into chaos? Or will you return to calm? You must stop asking life to be easier and start training your mind to be stronger. Because your peace is not circumstantial. It is forged from the inside out. And once you grasp that, truly grasp it, you become immovable. Not by force, but by understanding. Because calm doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you move with intention. It means you speak with purpose. Act with patience. Hold your values when everyone else trades theirs for quick wins. It means you have the power to endure the storm, without becoming the storm. This is how legends are built. Not in moments of applause, but in hours of practice. In the battles no one sees. In the choice to respond with strength when anger tempts you. To choose humility when ego calls you. To choose silence when noise surrounds you. That is the Stoic's way. Every emotion you feel it. Then let it pass through you. Don't cling. Don't drown. Observe. Because the moment you observe without judgment, you reclaim control. The moment you witness your fear without obeying it, you rise above it. And that rise, that inner elevation, is the beginning of a life no longer driven by reaction. You begin to lead yourself. And when you lead yourself, you become the kind of person others trust when their own world falls apart. Not because you fix everything, but because your presence reminds them they can survive anything. You don't need to shout to lead. You don't need to dominate to be strong. True power is calm. True leadership is clarity. True peace is earned. And it is earned every time you choose to remain composed when everything inside of you wants to scream. It is earned when you honor your values in private. When you hold the line under pressure. When you choose principle over pride. This world will throw everything at you. And most of it you cannot control. But there is one fortress no storm can breach. Your own mind. And the stronger that fortress becomes, the quieter your life feels. The drama fades. The fear subsides. Not because life has changed, but because you have. You've built the strength to endure. The wisdom to know what matters. The discipline to return to yourself. That's what Stoicism teaches. Not escape. Not avoidance. But the courage to face the fire. And stand tall anyway. So the next time you feel like breaking, remember, that's the moment your calm matters most. That's the moment your philosophy becomes real. That's the moment where your peace is forged, not found. Breathe, anchor yourself, and step forward. Still, steady, unshaken, You see, the modern world worships speed. More, faster, now. But the Stoic worships depth. Not how fast you move, but how well you move. Not how much you do, but how aligned your actions are with your values. In a world of endless motion, calm is rebellion. When others rush to respond, you pause. When they fear silence, you find truth in it. When they chase validation, you seek virtue. Because the calm mind sees further. It listens before it speaks. It watches without assumption. And in that stillness, you see what others miss. That pain is a signal, not a sentence. That adversity is not punishment, but preparation. That discomfort is not the enemy. It's the doorway to wisdom. So when the world collapses around you, when the job falls through, the relationship ends, the diagnosis comes, the dream delays, do not ask, why me? Ask, what can this teach me? What am I being called to build within myself that no one can take from me? Because life is not about what you accumulate. It's about what you cultivate. Do you cultivate patience in frustration? Do you cultivate clarity in confusion? Do you cultivate strength in suffering? That is the Stoic path. To plant the seeds of peace where others sow panic. To walk through the fire and come out clearer, not colder. And make no mistake, there is a cost to calm. You will lose the comfort of blame. You will lose the illusion of control. You will lose the cheap thrill of outrage. But what you gain is immeasurable. You gain the ability to navigate loss without losing yourself. You gain the power to be fully present, even when life is imperfect. You gain the courage to respond with reason when emotion would destroy everything. This isn't weakness. This is the highest form of strength. Because anyone can react. Anyone can yell. Anyone can break under pressure. But the one who breathes through the storm, who acts with intention, who lives by a deeper code, that is a person who cannot be moved by chaos. They don't just survive life's trials. They transform through them. So become that person. Not overnight. Not in a single breakthrough moment. But through practice. Every single day. Every time you want to lash out but you choose stillness, you are training. Every time you feel fear and act anyway, you are building. Every time you're misunderstood and stay grounded, you are mastering yourself. That's what Stoicism is. Not philosophy in theory, but philosophy in motion. Not perfect peace, but practiced calm. And that calm is contagious. People will feel it. They won't know how to explain it. But in your presence, they'll breathe deeper. They'll slow down. They'll remember who they are. Because peace, when earned, radiates. It steadies others. It anchors rooms. It inspires without speaking. So never doubt the value of your discipline. Never underestimate the power of your silence. Never forget that your calm is not just for you. It is for everyone who crosses your path. Your family, your friends, even strangers who sense, for a moment, that there is another way to live. A better way, quieter way, a stronger way. And it begins always with how you show up when everything falls apart. Not with panic, not with blame, but with calm, with presence, with the quiet, disciplined certainty that no matter what happens around you, you will not be moved from within. That is Stoicism. That is peace. And that is your greatest power. There's something sacred about a person who's been broken, but stands anyway, who's lost, but chooses to keep walking, who's cried in silence, but shows up with kindness in their eyes. That's the calm born not from privilege, but from pain, not from ease, but from endurance. Is what the Stoics knew, that true strength is forged in the darkness. When the lights go out, when the world stops cheering, when your plans fall to pieces, that's where the real work begins. In the silence, in the decision, to get up again, to carry on, to choose meaning over misery, because you were not made to escape life. You were made to engage with it, all of it. Not just the triumphs, but the trials. Not just the clarity, but the confusion. The Stoic doesn't wait for the storm to pass. He becomes the one who walks into it. Eyes open, heart steady, spirit grounded. And that requires tools. Not tools for the outside world, but tools for the inner battlefield. The first is awareness, the ability to catch your thoughts before they carry you away, to witness your anger, to name your fear, to look your anxiety in the eye and say, "You don't get to drive today." The second is acceptance, not surrendering to weakness, but surrendering to what is, to reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. To say, "Yes, this is happening, but how I respond, that's on me." The third is discipline, the quiet, daily practice of showing up, not just when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. Discipline in your habits, in your thoughts, in your words, in your presence. Because every moment is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every decision, to speak, to stay silent, to act, to wait, it all adds up. And over time, those choices harden into character. The kind of character that cannot be shaken. And the fourth, perhaps the most overlooked, is gratitude. Not the performative kind, not the forced kind, but the deep, quiet realization that, even in suffering, there is something to be gained. That even in loss, something is being made new. Gratitude is not about pretending everything's fine. It's about seeing that even pain can shape you into something better. It says, "I may not like this, but I will not waste it. I may not have chosen this path, but I will walk it with strength." That's the mindset of a Stoic. Not delusional, not bitter, clear, rooted, grateful even in the fire because they know the fire is where the gold is found. So when the days feel heavy, when nothing makes sense, when the noise in your head becomes deafening, go back to these tools: awareness, acceptance, discipline, gratitude, and build your peace from the inside out. Because peace is not a place you arrive at. It's a place you carry, a fortress within, stone by stone, principle by principle. And each time life tries to shake you, you reinforce the foundation, not with resistance, but with wisdom, not with avoidance, but with alignment. This is how the calm is kept. This is how the Stoic stands, even when the world shakes. They don't ask for life to be easier. They ask to be wiser, stronger, more composed. Because when you master your response, you master your life. You want to change your life? Start by changing your inner weather. Because the storms outside are inevitable, but the storm within, that's a choice. And the great secret? The calmer you become inside, the less control the outside world has over you. Not because it gets easier, but because you get clearer. The person who is calm is not numb. They are focused. They don't waste energy on what they can't shape. They don't fight every battle. They pick the ones that matter, the ones aligned with purpose, not pride. You must understand this. You cannot stop the chaos of the world, but you can stop the chaos from entering you. You can become the gatekeeper of your mind and let only what serves you through. That's not selfish. That's sacred. Because when you protect your peace, you protect your clarity. And when you protect your clarity, you protect your ability to lead. Not just others, but yourself. And that's the true war, isn't it? Not against the world, but against your own impulses. Against the noise that says you're not enough. Against the fear that says you're running out of time. Against the ego that demands applause before action. The Stoics knew that the fiercest battle is within. And they trained for it every day. They journaled. They reflected. They reminded themselves that nothing outside of virtue is necessary for peace. They built routines not to impress others, but to fortify themselves. They understood. If you don't build your mind, the world will break it. So build it. Build it like a warrior trains his body, like a sculptor shapes his art. With patience, with precision, with pride not in the results but in the effort. Wake up each day and remind yourself, I do not control what the world brings. I control how I meet it. Meet it with stillness. Meet it with discipline. Meet it with grace. And when you fail, because you will, do not fall into shame. Return to practice. Return to presence. Forgive yourself quickly. And begin again. That's what separates the Stoic from the rest. Not perfection, but recovery. They don't spiral. They recenter. They don't avoid pain. They alchemize it. They don't hide from challenge. They rise to meet it. Because they know there is no peace without strength. And there is no strength without suffering. But suffering, when met with wisdom, becomes transformation. You've been through pain. You've been through loss. You've been through chaos. But have you allowed it to shape you? Not into bitterness. Not into cynicism. But into someone calm enough to carry fire, without burning themselves. Into someone stable enough to hold space for others, without falling apart themselves. Into someone quiet enough to hear the truth, even when it whispers. That's what the Stoics practiced. That's what you must embody. Not because it's easy, but because it's essential. So when life collapses, when everything you leaned on is stripped away, when the noise is deafening and the path is unclear, remember, this is your moment. Not to fix everything, not to win approval, but to master your response, to practice what you preach, to choose what few can, to be calm, to be clear, to be free. Because when you can do that, when you can remain composed in the eye of the storm, then nothing can stop you. You become untouchable, not because life spares you, but because you've trained to rise regardless. That is the Stoic's reward. Not comfort, but unbreakable character. And that, above all, is peace. Look around you. Most people live at the mercy of what happens. They let the world pull their strings. Joy when things go right, misery when they don't. Up, down, they call that normal. But normal isn't freedom. Freedom is when the world no longer dictates your peace. When your stability comes from within. When you are no longer seduced by praise or paralyzed by criticism. The Stoic walks through applause and accusation alike. Unmoved. Not because they don't care, but because they've chosen what matters more. Principle, purpose, presence. They do not perform. They live. And because they live by design, not by reaction, they lead by example. It's not glamorous. There are no fireworks when you sit in silence instead of lashing out. No standing ovation when you take the high road. No viral clip when you swallow pride and choose discipline. But those small moments, those quiet, invisible wins, they are what shape the unshakable self. The Stoics knew that the world outside reflects the world within. So if you want to create peace around you, you must create peace in you. That means cleaning the mental clutter. It means deleting the toxic scripts you inherited. It means rewiring the reflex to blame and replacing it with the practice of ownership. You have a choice always: escalate or elevate, react or respond, cling or release, control others or master yourself. That's the discipline. That's the art. That's the daily practice that turns storms into teachers. You must become still enough to hear what pain is trying to teach you. Strong enough to let go of what no longer serves you, and wise enough to know peace isn't something you wait for. It's something you become. Every thought, every action, every breath is either building your calm or breaking it. So take inventory. What are you feeding your mind? What are you rehearsing every day? Are you training for chaos or preparing for clarity? Because what you practice in private becomes how you perform under pressure. And one day, you'll be tested. You'll get the call. You'll face the loss. You'll hear the news that stops your heart. And in that moment, you will not rise to the occasion. You will fall back on your level of preparation. So train now. Practice silence when provoked. Practice gratitude when it's hardest. Practice forgiveness when it would be easier to hate. Practice presence, especially when your mind wants to escape. These are not soft practices. They are soul practices. They are what separate the fragile from the formidable. Because the Stoic doesn't just want to survive. They want to become the kind of person who can endure anything. Not by shutting down, but by rising up. who can walk into chaos and remain whole, who can lead not through dominance, but through example, through presence, through composure. This world doesn't need more noise. It needs people like you, who can hold the storm in their chest and still breathe peace into the room. People who don't just talk about calm, but embody it, who live it, who are it, not sometimes, not when it's easy, always. And now you stand here, not untouched by life's cruelty, but undefeated by it. The world did not break you. It woke you, tore away the distractions. It shattered the illusion. And what remained was you, not the image, not the roles, not the stories they told you to wear, just you, raw, real, unmasked. And in that place, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath everything that ever told you to be afraid of stillness, you met the most powerful force you will ever know. You're calm, not borrowed, not inherited, built. Every scar you carry, proof. Every tear you've hidden, sacred. Every time you chose stillness when chaos begged you to fight. That was the moment you became something else. Not just a survivor, but a creator, a master of yourself, a leader of the unseen, a living example of what happens when a human being takes full command of their inner world. So let the world do what it does. Let the noise rise. Let the storms rage. Let the critics bark and the plans crumble. Because you've already made your decision. You've chosen calm. You've chosen stillness. You've chosen to no longer be at war with life, but to dance with it, walk with it, breathe with it, fully present. And in that presence, you've found something unshakable. Not a shield, not a wall, a flame, a quiet, undying flame. That does not scream for attention, but never goes out. That is your peace. That is your strength. That is the Stoic way. So when the next storm comes, and it will come, you won't run. You won't hide. You won't wish for easier days. You'll close your eyes, feel your breath, anchor to your values, and walk straight into the storm, still, silent, unmoved, unbreakable, because calm is who you've become.